Arya Lane sat on her bed, hugging her knees to her chest. She looked at her broken camera on the floor. She was 17 and very shy. Arya loved taking pictures. She liked capturing quiet moments in her small town, like a fisherman fixing his net or a stray dog playing in the waves. Photography made her happy. It helped her see beauty in the world even when she felt invisible. She had been excited about her school's photo exhibition. It was a chance to show everyone her pictures. But now that dream is gone, just like her camera. Her classmates had made fun of her for weeks. They called her the weird girl with the camera. They laughed at how she walked and talked. The worst of them was Sienna Bennett. She was the leader of the group that bullied Arya. Sienna would tease her in the hallways and post mean things about her online. Yesterday, something terrible happened. After school, Sienna and her friends stopped Arya on the way home. They grabbed her camera, her special camera, the one her grandma gave her before she passed away. Sienna threw it on the ground and smashed it. "No one cares about your silly pictures," Sienna said with a mean smile. Arya's heart broke. The words hurt even more than losing her camera. Now, sitting in her room, she felt trapped. Photography used to make her feel safe, but now it felt like a heavy weight in her heart. She picked up some of her pictures. A lighthouse in the fog, a child's muddy boots by the door. Each photo was a part of her. But now she didn't think they mattered. The exhibition was tomorrow, but she didn't want to go. She didn't want to face everyone laughing at her. "I just wanted to show the world's beauty," she whispered. "Why do they make me feel so small?" Her mom, who worked night shifts at the hospital, had no idea how sad Arya felt. Her dad had left when she was little, so she had no one to talk to, except Noah. Noah was her only friend. He always tried to cheer her up, sending her funny pictures and telling her she was amazing. "You're going to shine at the exhibition," he texted her. But Arya didn't believe him. She decided she wasn't going. It was better to stay home than to be laughed at. She hugged her knees tighter, feeling more alone than ever. She was sensitive, yes, and the bullying hurt a lot. But deep inside, she had something she didn't know yet. She had strength. Then she heard a knock at the door. At first, she ignored it, thinking it was Noah dropping by. But when the knock came again, louder this time, she hesitated. Wiping her tears, she walked to the door and opened it. Standing there, smiling gently, was Keanu Reeves. Arya blinked. Was this real? She barely understood what was happening. Everything she had been feeling, the sadness, the loneliness, came rushing back. She stepped back, confused, but Keanu's kind eyes held her in place. She didn't know it yet, but this moment was going to change everything. Just hours ago, she had felt like she was drowning in sadness, all because of Sienna Bennett. The bullying hadn't always been this bad. At first, it was just whispers in the cafeteria or people looking at her funny when she took pictures at school. She tried to ignore it, thinking they would get bored. But Sienna didn't stop. She made fun of Arya's love for photography in front of everyone. She left mean comments on Arya's Instagram, calling her photos ugly and useless. Arya tried to be strong. She told herself that words couldn't hurt her. But then things got worse. Yesterday was the worst day of all. Arya was walking home, her camera hanging from her shoulder, when Sienna and her friends blocked her path. "What's this junk?" Sienna sneered, grabbing the camera before Arya could stop her. It wasn't just a camera. It was the old, precious camera her grandma had given her. The camera that made Arya feel close to her even after she was gone. Arya tried to grab it back. "Please," she begged. But Sienna just laughed. She tossed the camera to one of her friends like a toy. Then with a loud crack, it hit the ground. It shattered. Arya fell to her knees, trying to pick up the broken pieces, her hands shaking. Her chest felt tight, like she couldn't breathe. "No one cares about your stupid pictures," Sienna said. Then she and her friends walked away laughing. Their laughter echoed in Arya's ears long after they were gone. Now in her room, looking at the broken camera, Arya felt empty. She had given up on the exhibition. She couldn't stand in front of all those people, showing her heart through her photos, knowing they would laugh at her. She shoved her pictures into a drawer. "I shouldn't have dreamed so big," she whispered to herself. Her mom was too tired from work to notice how quiet Arya had become. Her dad was long gone. Only Noah cared. He had texted her earlier. "You're amazing, Lil. They're just jealous." But his words couldn't fix what Sienna had broken inside her. The exhibition was tomorrow in the town's small community hall. It was a big event. Students would show their work to teachers, neighbors, and even some local artists. Arya had dreamed of standing there, nervous but proud, her pictures on display for everyone to see. Now that dream felt silly. She had told Noah she wasn't going. He had argued with her, his voice shaky over the phone. You can't let them win, he had said. She had hung up, too tired to fight anymore. But what Arya didn't know was that Noah had already done something for her. He had taken one of her photos, a beautiful picture of the lighthouse covered in mist, and secretly submitted it to the exhibition. He couldn't stand the thought of her work being hidden away. Arya's world had become small, just her room and her sadness. Her dreams felt lost. She didn't know how to pull herself out of this dark place. Every time she closed her eyes, she saw Sienna's cruel smile. She heard the sound of her camera breaking. It wasn't just a camera, it was her last bit of bravery, her last connection to her grandma, the one person who had believed in her. She curled up on her bed, tears rolling down her cheeks. She felt like nothing. Nothing, she whispered. The word tasted bitter. But outside her room, the world was still moving. Somewhere in town, people were setting up for the exhibition. Somewhere, Noah was hoping she would change her mind. And standing at her door, Keanu Reeves was about to change everything. She didn't know how strong she was. She didn't see the tiny spark inside her, the one that kept her going even when everything felt so hard. Meanwhile, across town, a little bit of hope was starting to grow. Arya's mom, Sarah, was on a break at the hospital. She sat with her co-worker Jenna and let out a big sigh. She's been so quiet lately, Sarah said, rubbing her tired eyes. I don't know what's wrong. Jenna listened carefully. She knew about Arya's love for taking pictures. Once, she had even seen Arya proudly show off one of her photos. She's being bullied, Sarah said, her voice sad. I just found out. Jenna's heart sank. She felt bad for Arya. But then an idea popped into her head. She had been a huge fan of Keanu Reeves for a long time. She knew he was kind. Maybe, just maybe, he could help. On a whim, she searched for an email address for his team and typed out a message about Arya. She wrote about how Arya loved photography, how she was being bullied, and how she had an important photo show coming up. Then she hit send. She didn't think anything would happen. But late that night, Keanu Reeves himself read the email. His eyebrows scrunched together as he read about the girl who loved photography but was struggling. He felt something inside him stir. Arya was sitting in her room, hugging a broken camera close to her chest. It had belonged to her grandma, and now it was shattered. Just like her heart. She barely heard the knock at the door. She thought maybe it was Noah, her best friend, coming to cheer her up again. But the knock came again, louder this time. Sighing, she got up, pulling her hoodie tighter around her. She shuffled downstairs, dragging her feet. When she opened the door, she froze. It wasn't Noah. It was Keanu Reeves. He stood there, tall and calm with kind eyes. He held a small wooden box under his arm. Hi, Arya, he said gently. I heard you're an artist. Can I come in? Arya's breath caught in her throat. She stood still, gripping the doorknob. Was this a joke? Was Sienna, the mean girl at school, playing a trick on her? But Keanu tilted his head slightly. His eyes were warm and serious. There was no trick, no prank. Just him waiting patiently. Sure, Arya stammered, stepping aside. Keanu walked in, and the small living room suddenly felt warmer. Like the sun had peeked through the clouds on a rainy day. Arya shut the door, her heart thumping so loud she thought he might hear it. She stood awkwardly watching him. He looked around, not at the messy table or the old couch, but at her photos. The ones scattered on the cushions. These yours? He asked, picking up a picture of a lighthouse surrounded by mist. She nodded, swallowing hard. She waited for him to say something mean. To laugh. But he didn't. This is beautiful, he said simply. His voice wasn't fake. It wasn't like when teachers said good job, just to be nice. He really meant it. Arya blinked. No one had ever called her photos beautiful before. Not like that. Keanu sat on the couch and patted the spot next to him. Hesitantly, Arya sat across from him, still clutching her hoodie sleeves. She didn't know what to say. This felt unreal. I heard what's been happening, he said. His voice was calm, steady. The bullying. The camera. I'm really sorry you've had to go through that. Arya's eyes widened. How did he know? Before she could ask, he continued, someone told me about you. They said you have a gift, and I wanted to see it for myself. His words hit her like a wave. She didn't know how to respond. A lump formed in her throat, and suddenly the words spilled out of her. They hate me, she whispered, her voice shaking. Sienna and her friends. They think my pictures are bad. They broke my camera yesterday, the one my grandma gave me. She's gone now, and it was all I had left of her. Tears burned in her eyes. She wiped them away quickly, embarrassed. I was supposed to show my pictures at the exhibition tomorrow, she added, her voice cracking. But now I can't. They'll just laugh. Keanu didn't flinch. He didn't say, "Don't cry," or, "It's not that bad." He just listened. Really listened. After a moment, he leaned forward. "You know, I understand," he said quietly. "When I was younger, I didn't fit in either. People thought I was strange. I was quiet. I felt like I didn't belong anywhere." Arya's breath slowed as she listened. He knew what that felt like. "I lost people I loved too," Keanu continued, his voice softer now. "And for a long time I felt lost. But then I found something. Art. Movies. Creating things. It didn't make everything better, but it gave me a way to keep going." He looked at her, his eyes kind but firm. "Your photos, Arya. They're your way. Don't let anyone take that from you." Arya's fingers brushed the broken camera beside her. Her throat tightened. "But it's gone," she whispered. "They broke it. And I'm too scared to go tomorrow." Keanu gave a small smile and placed the wooden box on the table. "Open it," he said. Arya hesitated, then slowly lifted the lid. Inside was a camera. Not fancy, not expensive, but it looked just like her old one. Her fingers trembled as she picked it up. "It's not the same," Keanu said gently, "but it's close. I thought maybe it could help you hold on to her. Your grandma. And what she saw in you." Arya clutched the camera. Tears blurred her vision. It felt like her heart was breaking all over again, but in a different way this time. Not from sadness, but from something else. Something warm. "You don't have to prove anything to anyone," Keanu said. "But if you want to, I'd be honored to go with you to the exhibition." Arya's breath caught. Her hand shook. "You'd go with me?" she asked, barely able to believe it. He nodded. "Yeah. We could show them what you're made of. Together." The idea was wild. Impossible. Keanu Reeves walking into that room with her? In front of Sienna and everyone who had laughed at her? But the way he said it, so sure, so calm, made her wonder. Maybe it wasn't impossible. For the first time in weeks, she felt something stir inside her. Oh. She looked at the camera in her hands. It was real. It was real. "Why me?" she asked, her voice barely above a whisper. "Why do this for me?" Keanu leaned back, his expression gentle but serious. "Because I've been where you are," he said. "And because someone once believed in me. Now it's my turn to pass that on." Arya swallowed, her heart thudding. "Your art matters, Arya," Keanu said. "You matter." His words wrapped around her like a warm hug. She still wasn't sure if she could face everyone tomorrow. But maybe, just maybe, she could try. Arya held her new camera tightly as Keanu's words kept repeating in her head. "I'd love to go with you to the exhibition," he had said. His words felt like a tiny rope pulling her up, giving her hope. She looked at him, feeling safe with him nearby. She had been full of doubt for weeks, but now she took a deep breath. "Okay," she whispered. It was a small word, but it was enough. Keanu smiled, and at that moment, Arya made a big decision. One that scared her but also made her feel excited. She would go to the exhibition. She would show her photo. The one she had hidden, even from her best friend Noah. It was a picture of a lighthouse in the fog, its light shining through the darkness. To Arya, it wasn't just a picture. It was a part of her. It showed the feeling she had inside, lost but still holding on to hope. Keanu didn't leave after that. He decided to stay in town for a little while. He found a small hotel down the street and told Arya, "I have a free day before my next job. I'm not here to rush you. Let's get you ready." A little while later, Noah arrived. When he saw Keanu sitting at Arya's kitchen table, stirring sugar into his coffee, his mouth fell open. "Dude, you're joking." Noah blurted out. Then he realized what he said and grinned. Hi, I'm Noah. Arya's best friend and her #1 fan." Keanu chuckled and shook Noah's hand. "Nice to meet you, Noah. She's lucky to have you." The three of them spent the whole day getting ready for the exhibition. The sadness Arya had been carrying for weeks started to fade away. Keanu wasn't just a big movie star. He felt like an older brother, kind and easy to talk to. He lay on the floor looking through Arya's photos, pointing out what he liked in each one. "This one has soul," he said, holding up a picture of an old broken boat. "You see things that other people don't." His words felt real, not fake. They started to break down the fear and doubt Arya had inside. Noah, on the other hand, kept making silly jokes, really bad ones. But they made Arya laugh. It was the first time she had laughed in weeks. "See? I told you, you're a rock star," Noah said, nudging her playfully. With Keanu's kind encouragement and Noah's goofy energy, Arya started to believe in herself. Just a little. Finally, they chose the lighthouse photo for the exhibition. Arya carefully took it out of a drawer. Her hands trembled as she touched the edges of the picture. "This is how I feel sometimes," she admitted in a soft voice. "Lost but still here." Keanu nodded, his eyes thoughtful. "That's what makes it special. It's honest." Then Keanu shared a story. He told them about a time when he felt lost after someone he loved passed away. He had no idea what to do next. He felt like he had no direction. But then he found a movie script that gave him purpose again. "You have that inside you too, Arya," he said. "This photo, it's your script. Let it tell your story." His words touched Arya's heart. Deep down, she felt a tiny spark of bravery. The night of the exhibition came too quickly. Arya stood in front of her mirror, smoothing down her simple black dress. Her stomach was full of nervous butterflies. Around her neck hung her new camera. She held it tightly. It made her feel safe. A knock at the door made her jump. When she opened it, Keanu stood there. He wasn't dressed like a movie star, just a regular guy in a jacket and jeans. "Ready?" he asked with a warm smile. Arya nodded, even though her hands were shaking. They walked together to the community hall. Noah followed behind them, snapping pictures on his phone. "This is so cool," he whispered to himself, grinning. Inside the hall, the room was full of people. Students, parents, and neighbors stood around, looking at the artwork. The air smelled like coffee. Arya's heart pounded. Then she heard whispers. "What's he doing with her?" a girl named Sienna sneered. She stood in the back with her friends, arms crossed. Arya's first instinct was to run away. But Keanu placed a gentle hand on her shoulder and whispered, "Ignore them. This is your night." Arya took a shaky breath and kept walking. At her table, Noah had already set up the lighthouse photo. It was framed simply but beautifully. She stared at it, her heart thumping loudly in her chest. Keanu stood beside her, his hands in his pockets, watching as people stopped to look at her picture. "Wow," a woman said, tilting her head to admire the photo. "That's amazing." A teacher nodded, writing something down on a notepad. Arya felt something new, something small and delicate. It wasn't fear this time. It was pride. Then a voice filled the room. "Next up, Arya Lane," the head judge announced. Arya froze. Her name echoed in the air. She couldn't move. Keanu gave her a small push. "You've got this." The judge pulled up her photo on the big screen. The lighthouse filled the room, its soft glow shining brightly. A hush fell over the crowd, then applause. Loud, excited applause. "This picture is full of emotion," the judge said. "It's simple but powerful." Arya's knees felt weak. Her eyes filled with happy tears. She glanced at Keanu, who clapped along with everyone else, his smile big and proud. Then an older man stepped forward. His hair was gray and his face was wrinkled. He wore glasses and looked closely at Arya's photo. "Remarkable," he said in a gruff voice. "I'm Samuel Everett. I used to work for National Geographic. You've got real talent, kid." Arya's eyes widened. She had read about him before. His photography was legendary. "I want to sponsor you," Everett continued, pulling a business card from his pocket. "I'll help you get into photography school after you graduate. You've got potential." The crowd murmured with excitement. Noah whooped loudly, almost dropping his phone. Arya's head spun. This was more than she had ever dreamed of. With a shaky voice, she said, "Thank you." Everett gave her a small smile before stepping back. But the moment wasn't over. Sienna strutted up, smirking. "Cute trick, Lil," she said loudly so everyone could hear. "Bringing a celebrity doesn't make your pictures any better." For a second, the old hurt came back. But before Arya could say anything, Keanu stepped forward. His voice was calm but firm. "I see talent in you too, Sienna," he said, catching her by surprise. "Why not use it for something good instead of tearing people down?" His words weren't mean, they were honest. And for the first time, Sienna didn't have a snappy comeback. She looked small, unsure. Arya realized something in that moment. Sienna wasn't a giant monster. She was just a girl like her. Then the judge spoke again, and the winner of this year's exhibition is Arya Lane. Arya's heart stopped. Did she hear that right? The lighthouse photo shined on the screen bigger than ever. The room exploded into cheers. Arya's breath caught in her throat. Noah hugged her so tightly she almost fell over. Keanu laughed and patted her back. "Told you," he said, his eyes twinkling. As she stood in that crowded hall, with Sienna silenced and Everett's card in her pocket, Arya felt something shift inside her. She wasn't just the shy girl in the background anymore. She was an artist. She had stepped into the light, and it felt like home. Arya stood still, her hands shaking as she held onto her camera strap. Her eyes looked at Keanu. He was clapping for her, his smile big and proud. Noah cheered loudly, raising his fist in the air. Even Samuel Everett, the old judge, nodded with a small smile. "Arya, come up here," the judge called, waving her over. Her legs felt weak, but Keanu gently touched her back and whispered, "You earned this. Go tell them who you are." She took a deep breath and walked up to the small stage. The bright lights shone on her face. The room became quiet. Everyone was looking at her, her classmates, her neighbors, even Sienna and her friends. Arya held the microphone tightly. At first, her voice was shaky. I didn't think I would be here tonight," she said. "I almost didn't come because I was scared. Scared people would laugh at me. Scared I wasn't good enough." She paused and looked at Keanu. He nodded at her. "People made me feel like my pictures, and like me, didn't matter," she said. Her voice cracked, but she kept going. "But someone helped me see that I was wrong. He didn't have to, but he did." She looked at Keanu again, her heart full of thanks. "Thank you, Keanu, for seeing me when I couldn't see myself. And Noah, my best friend, you never gave up on me." She swallowed and smiled softly. "This is for my grandma too. She taught me to find light even in dark times." Her eyes filled with tears, but she didn't wipe them away. The room was silent for a moment. Then someone clapped. Slowly at first, then faster and louder. Soon the whole room was cheering. Arya stepped back, feeling something she hadn't felt in a long time, like she belonged. As the night went on, people came up to her to say congratulations. They asked about her photos. Everett, the judge, gave her his business card and said, "Call me when you're ready." Then he walked away. Noah stayed close, taking silly pictures with her and Keanu. His smile was big and happy. Even some classmates she had never spoken to before smiled at her and said, "Your photo was amazing." Sienna stood far away, her arms crossed. But her face didn't look so mean anymore. Arya caught her eye for a moment, and for the first time she wasn't scared. Later, when the crowd was gone, Arya and Keanu went outside. The cool night air touched her skin. In the distance, the lighthouse blinked, just like the picture she had taken. She hugged her camera close. "I still can't believe this happened," she said softly. Keanu leaned on the railing, looking at the lighthouse. "You made it happen, Arya. I just gave you a little push." Arya laughed a little. "A little push? You showed up at my house. That's more than a little push." Keanu chuckled. Then his face turned kind and serious. "You are your own light, Arya. Don't let anyone make it dim. Not Sienna. Not anyone. You have something special, and tonight proved it." He reached into his jacket and took out a plain card. His name and number were on it. "Call me if you ever need a friend," he said, placing it in her hand. "I mean it." Arya looked at the card. Her heart felt full. "Thank you," she whispered. Keanu smiled one last time, then turned to go. "Take care of yourself, okay? And keep taking pictures." He waved and walked away, disappearing into the night. Arya held the card in her hand. It felt warm, like a promise. The next morning, the whole town was talking. "Did you hear? Keanu Reeves showed up for Arya Lane." The news spread everywhere, in the cafe, on porches, on the internet. People who had never noticed Arya before were now talking about her photo, her win, and her courage. Some kids at school started standing up to bullies. They were inspired by Arya, the girl who had faced her fears with a Hollywood star by her side. Even Sienna seemed different. She didn't say sorry, not yet. But Arya heard that Sienna had stopped posting mean things online. In the lunchroom, Arya saw Sienna looking at her table. Her face was hard to read. But for once, Arya didn't look away. Something was changing, slowly but for real. That week, Arya sat in her room with her new camera. Everett's business card sat on her desk. She flipped through her old pictures, then grabbed her notebook. She started sketching new ideas, new photos, new stories. The exhibition wasn't the end. It was just the beginning. She thought about Keanu's words, about her grandma's lessons, about Noah, who always believed in her. "The world still has good in it," she whispered to herself, "and I'm going to capture it." She stood up, put the camera around her neck, and walked outside. In the distance, the lighthouse blinked, steady and strong. For the first time, Arya felt steady too. Her journey wasn't over. High school was still there. College applications were coming. And maybe Sienna's shadow would still be around. But now she had a path. A path she had made, with a little help from a friend. She lifted her camera and took a picture. The click was loud and clear. It was a sound of hope. A sound of strength. A sound of the future she was ready to chase. Arya's story is special to me. It shows that kindness can change a person's life. But I wonder, Does it always take a big moment to help someone? Or is the real magic in small, everyday kindness? Noah's friendship. A nice email from a stranger. Little things that make a big difference. I think Arya was always strong. She just needed a little push. That's what makes her amazing. But some people might say she depended too much on Keanu. Should real strength come from inside, not from someone famous helping? If you like this story, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Leave a comment below and let me know what you think. And don't forget to subscribe for more thrilling adventures, mysteries, and unforgettable moments. Your support keeps these stories alive and the creativity flowing. Thanks for watching. I can't wait to see you in the next video.